Hey everyone. This is a quick demonstration of how to do a network diagram. It's based upon the assignment that you'll be doing next week or this week, depending on when you're watching this. I apologize if you hear snoring sounds. I have a dog sitting next to me as I work. But basically, what you have here is you have a list of activities, and the activities contain the predecessor information and the estimation in weeks in terms of the amount of time it takes to do them. And I always recommend using the drawing tool here. So if you go into under insert illustrations and use the shapes tools in Word, this is probably the best way to draw these out. Pretty simple. I'm going to actually go ahead and grab one shape and draw it out here. And looking over here, I know I have start, A, B, C, D, E, and end. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different activities. I'm going to go ahead and copy the box and paste it. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 shapes here now. You can move them all around your screen, place them wherever you want. I'm going to just move them here. Okay, so the first one here, I'm going to call this one start. If I double click in it, okay, I can type in start equals 0. Because start and end, they're not really activities, they're kind of just endpoints or beginning points. So they're going to have 0 days or weeks or whatever your time is that you're measuring. Looking over here on the side, you'll see that task A has a predecessor of start. So let's go ahead and put task A over here. I'm going to move these guys out of the way a little bit. So task A, and task A is a duration of 5 weeks. I'll double click on that. I'll type in A equals 5. Okay. Task B has a predecessor of A and is worth has seven weeks of time built into it. So I'm going to go ahead and put this over here. I'm going to call it B equals 7. C also has a predecessor of start. So I'm going to go ahead and drop it over here and type in C equals 2. Task D has a predecessor of B and C. So I'm going to stick D over here somewhere in between the two of them and type in D equals 3. Then task E has a predecessor of task D. So let's go ahead and put this one over here and we'll say E equals 4. And last but not least, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of shrink things up a little bit here, move them around to make sure that everything fits on the screen. So we'll go ahead and put 2 right there, C equals 2, put B right here, put D right here, put E here. And then finally we have end, which goes right here. And I will go ahead and type in end equals 0. So we have to connect these with lines. And what I like to do is go under the insert illustrations, shapes area and grab a line with an arrow. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw an arrow here using this tool. This is very basic, very simple. It can be a little messy. It's not a big deal. I'm going to go ahead and copy and then paste 4, 5 of these arrows maybe. So I'll grab this first arrow here. And we want to make sure that it's aiming where it's supposed to go. Takes a little finesse, but should be okay. So we go from start over here to A, and then we go from start to C. We have an arrow there. A is a predecessor of B, so we're going to have an arrow here that goes from A to B, like so. And then we want to have an arrow that goes from C to D, and another arrow that goes from B to D, because as you'll recall, D over here has a predecessor of B and C. And then I believe there's an arrow hiding right here. Look at that. Let's grab that out of there. So we want to go D to E. And then we're going to take and create one more arrow here. It goes from E to F, and I'm apologizing here for how short that is. I can move this a little bit. Even when you are experienced in doing this, it still takes a little bit of time and effort to draw these things out. So what you'll notice here real quick is that none of the lines cross each other. Okay, you don't want any lines crossing over any other lines. So you have to spend a little bit of time moving things around and drawing out your diagrams. Second thing you want to notice also, nothing goes backwards, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So you don't want to put A over here and have the arrow pointing backwards. Everything should flow from left to right. It can go, on an angle up or an angle down, but everything should always flow from left to right. So we have a basic network diagram here that shows us the sequence of events. Now, so the question is how many paths do we have in this diagram? Well, I'm going to just show you right now. We have two paths. We have start, A, B, D, E, end, which if you add up all those values comes out to 19 weeks. And then we have start, C, D, E, and end, which comes out to 9 weeks. So what does that mean? Well, we have two paths here that we can take, and we do have some overlap. We have some tasks that reside in both paths, right? But this diagram lets us figure out a couple things. One, it lets us figure out what the critical path is. And as you recall from your reading, the critical path is the longest path in any diagram, which means that if you exceed that path, then you're basically over your schedule, and that's a problem. So the critical path for this diagram here is start, A, B, D, E, end of 19 weeks. Another thing that will come up in that homework assignment is it will ask you what's the float or slack of any particular item. Okay, so the float on task C is 10 weeks. And why is that? Because task C can be delayed up to 10 weeks before the length of the path in which it resides equals the critical path. That's how much extra time you have to do whatever it is you need to do in task C to make sure that you don't take your project over its schedule. So the next question I have for you is, what is the float on task D? And some of you are probably going to say, well, 10 weeks, because 10 weeks is how long we have to go before we cause this path to exceed the critical path. It's a trick question. The amount of float that we have available on D is actually 0, because D also resides in the critical path. It's on these two paths. If we delay this activity for any duration whatsoever, it'll cause this path to become longer, and our critical path will extend out, and that means that we're behind schedule. I hope this video has helped. It's very similar to the homework assignment that you'll be doing individually in the coming weeks. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me in Canvas. Thank you.